Have you ever been in this situation? You're speaking calmly. Your logic is clear. And the other person acts as if you're just barking for attention. They interrupt you, ignore you, dismiss your point with a smug comment, then go right back to scrolling on their phone. And here's the most painful part. You didn't lose because you were wrong. You lost because your words carried no authority. Listen carefully. Respect does not come from speaking louder. Don't make the mistake of thinking that the more you're disrespected, the harder you should shout. Shouting only proves that you've lost control. People don't respect someone who has lost control. They respect someone who stays calm and sharp. Power comes from precision. One sentence, delivered at the right moment, with the right timing and tone, can silence a meeting room. It can make a difficult family member rethink their attitude. It can make a rude person back off without a fight. You don't need to yell. You don't need to lecture. You don't need to play the role of the good person just to earn approval. Today, I'm going to give you the first 3 phrases from the toolkit for breaking disrespect. These are phrases you can use when a boss tries to bully you with words, when family members ignore your boundaries, or when someone constantly tries to dominate the conversation. Say the right sentence in a normal voice, and people will often change their attitude immediately. And let me be honest, if you're the kind of person who hates confrontation, fears upsetting others, or worries about being disliked, these phrases will feel uncomfortable. That's normal. They're uncomfortable because you've been conditioned to ask for respect instead of expecting it. But respect is not something you beg for. It's something people must pay the proper price for if they want access to you. Now let's get to phrase number 1. Listen carefully. Practice it. And remember, once you've said it, stop talking. Don't explain yourself like someone who lacks confidence. This phrase is a clean, powerful way to shut down situations where someone is trying to pressure you into agreeing just to keep the peace. It's polite, but it's not weak. And the best part is that it accomplishes 2 things at the same time. First, it shows that you've listened. You're not being impulsive. You're not being unreasonable. You're not someone who just doesn't get it. You understand what they're saying. You've heard their argument. You know exactly where they're coming from. People often try to dismiss disagreement by saying, "You just don't understand." This phrase cuts off that escape route immediately. Second, it clearly states your position. I don't agree. No dancing around the point. No asking for permission. No weak follow-up like, "That's just what I think." Though, you don't need anyone's approval to have an opinion. You have every right to stand your ground. The way you deliver this phrase is what gives it weight. Say it in a normalton. Speak a little slower than usual. Maintain eye contact. Don't force an awkward smile. Don't rush into an explanation. Say it. Then stop. Stay silent. Silence is a weapon. Weak people rush to fill silence with endless explanations. You don't. For example, just do it my way. Stop arguing. I understand your point of view, but I don't agree. Then wait. If they ask, why only then do you give 1 or 2 brief reasons? Don't turn it into a presentation. This phrase works exceptionally well in debates, meetings, team projects, or any situation where you need to keep your backbone intact. Remember, the goal is not to win the argument. The goal is to make it clear that you cannot be pushed, pressured, or led around by someone else's opinion. This phrase is for those situations where someone is being rude but hides behind "I was just joking." The kind of joke that crosses personal boundaries. The kind that lightly humiliates, mocks, takes cheap shots, or pressures you into doing something you don't want to do. Most people respond poorly in one of two ways. They either laugh it off and silently accept the disrespect, or they explode emotionally and end up looking like the problem. This phrase sits right in the middle, calm, direct, and full of boundaries. I don't think that's appropriate. No long explanation. No justification. No asking for permission. You're simply stating a standard that doesn't meet my standard. Why is it so powerful? Because it doesn't invite debate. If you say, "Why would you say that you've opened the door to an argument?" If you say, "That hurt my feelings," you've handed power over to your emotions. But I don't think that's appropriate is a stop sign. It's a standard, not a feeling. Here are a few examples. Someone asks an intrusive question. How much money do you make? Are you dating anyone? Why don't you have kids yet? You respond, I don't think that's an appropriate question. Someone makes a joke about your appearance, your family, or your abilities. You respond, I don't think that's an appropriate thing to say. Someone pressures you into doing something unreasonable. You respond, I don't think that request is appropriate. The most important part is your tone. Keep it flat. Don't raise your voice. Don't sound bitter. Don't sound offended. The calmer you are, the less ammunition they have to paint you as the emotional one. And if they smirk and say, "Wow, you're sensitive," don't take the bait. Simply repeat it once. I don't think that's appropriate. Then move on. Change the subject. End the discussion if necessary. You don't argue with rude behavior. You close the door on it. This is the power switch phrase for the moment. A conversation turns toxic when someone starts raising their voice, making personal attacks, interrupting constantly, labeling you unfairly, or deliberately trying to make you lose your composure. This is the phrase you use. And this is where many people fail. They rush to explain themselves because they want to be understood. Sorry. But someone who is already being disrespectful isn't trying to understand you. They're trying to win through emotion. This phrase establishes the rules of engagement. It clearly says, if there is no respect, the conversation is over. You're not asking, you're not pleading. You're not trying to keep the peace. You're setting the minimum condition required for the discussion to continue. And now they have a choice. Lower their tone or lose access to you. The delivery matters. Speak slowly. Speak firmly. Put slight emphasis on the word respect. Let's talk when we can treat each other with respect. Then stop talking. No explanation. No follow-up. No, what I mean is just silence. The silence shows that you're not willing to be dragged into the mud. If they continue shouting or attacking, you can add one short sentence, I'm going to stop here, and then actually stop. Don't make empty threats. People with no boundaries only respect those who are willing to close the door. You'll notice something interesting. A respectful person will immediately adjust their behavior. Someone who relies on intimidation will become angry. And if they become angry, even better, they've just revealed exactly who they are. You no longer need to waste your time figuring it out. Remember, respect is not something you ask for. The more you sacrifice your dignity just to keep the peace, the more people will push your boundaries. Phrase number 3 helps you reclaim your position without raising your voice, without attacking anyone, and without lifting a finger. That's real strength. Not controlling other people, but controlling the conditions under which you allow them access to you. Now, do you see it? These 3 phrases are not just smart things to say. They're power switches. When someone tries to push you around, pressure you, or drag you into an emotional tug-of-war, you don't need to argue. You simply need to set a boundary with your words. Phrase 1, I understand your point of view, but I don't agree. You listen, but you don't get led around. Phrase 2, I don't think that's appropriate. You shut down rude behavior without lowering yourself into an argument. Phrase 3, let's talk when we can treat each other with respect. You establish the rules. If there's no respect, they lose access to you. And here's the part that weak people often avoid. Power does not come from talking more. Power comes from saying the right sentence, then staying silent. Silent enough for them to realize you don't need their approval to exist. You don't need permission to have an opinion, and you no longer participate in their dirty games. Here's a line worth remembering. If you still have to shout to be heard, you've already lost. The people who earn respect are the ones who speak little. Speak clearly. Stay calm. And know exactly when to close the door. Now I want you to do something simple. Think of a recent situation where someone disrespected you at work, at home, or out in the world. If you could go back to that moment, which of these 3 phrases would you use? Write the exact phrase in the comments, not because I need to see it, but because repeating it helps reprogram your response. And if you'd like me to cover the remaining 2 phrases, along with ready-to-use examples for situations like a controlling boss, an overbearing family member, or a Ruhestranger, then comment, continue.